Hi again, it's Pastor Mark here at Brant Naz, the Brantford Church of the Nazarene at 347 Fairview Drive. I'm at the Wilkes, what they call the Wilkes Dam here in Brantford, Ontario, doing my Let's Take a Break with Pastor Mark, where I take 5 minutes out of my schedule from the week to answer your questions on the Christian faith or the Bible. So we're taking our break here in Brantford at the Wilkes Dam to do that. Our question this week comes to me and says, isn't being a good person enough to get some into heaven? Isn't being a good person enough to get you into heaven, someone into heaven? That's a great question, and that question is answered in many various ways. If you believe that isn't being good enough to get into heaven, you do things like some religions too that teach you, well, if you just do enough good things, or if you're more good than you are bad, then you're going to get into heaven. You'd qualify to get into heaven. A number of years ago, I took some training on how to share my faith, and part of that training was to ask two questions in particular to people. The first question was this: if you were to ask someone, if you had the unfortunate circumstance where you were to die today and you were to go, would you go to heaven or not? And do you know what? Most people would say, well, I hope so, or I think so. Very few people, if any, said no, and very few people said an emphatic yes. It was more, I hope so, or I think so. Now, the second question we were taught to ask is, suppose the unfortunate circumstance did happen that you did die today and you were to stand in heaven before God, and he was to say to you, why should I let you into my heaven? What would you say to him? Well, that question usually prompted a little more thought and a little more reflection upon their part. And most people would say, well, I'm not perfect, but I'm also not a bad person. I'm not perfect, but I'm not a bad person. Other people would say in the same lines of, well, I've tried my best to do that. Well, is our best good enough? Is not being perfect but not being bad good enough? That kind of prompts some other thoughts to us to say, well, how good is good and how bad is bad? We could look at that and say, they say, what's the definition of a good person? Is a good person just someone who does more good than they do bad? Is a good person someone who just does not commit a serious crime? Or is a good person say, well, they volunteer at a homeless shelter once a month? Or maybe the qualification for being good is that you need to volunteer twice a month. It's not, it's not defined for us. Others might say simply you just need enough good deeds to outdo the bad deeds. You need kind of like 51% good and 49% bad to qualify to get into heaven to do that. And then there's some that says, well, what if some bad things or some good things have more weight than others? Some things you do that are good carry more weight than other things that you do are good. Some things that you do are bad or carry more weight than other things. So what's the line of judgment that we have there? But the Bible is clear to us. And I'm going to quote a few verses or refer to a few verses in the book of Romans. And the Bible is clear. In Romans chapter 3, verse 12, it says there is no one who does good, not even one. Now, that's not referring to none of us do any good. That's referring to none of us do any good that'll earn us a way into heaven. None of us will do any good that'll earn us a way into heaven. Verse 23 of chapter 3 in Romans tells us, for all have sinned and fall short of God. All of people have sinned. That includes you. That includes me. We've all sinned. And it says there, we fall short of the glory of God. We fall short of what God desires for that. In other words, even if we're the best person there is, we're still not good enough to meet the standard that God has. God's standard is complete obedience, and we fall short of that complete obedience. So then we might wonder, well, what's the point then? If I can't do good enough for that to get into heaven, what's the point then? Well, the point lies in the person of Jesus, that we need to have faith or trust, as they call it. Faith is an action word. It's not just a belief system. It's an action word. We need to have trust in what Jesus has done to bring us to God. What does that mean? God's forgiveness depends on our faith, on our trust in Jesus. It can't be earned. Jesus alone earned it for us. He paid the price for our sin. He paid the price for what kept us from heaven. as well, we saying in the book of Romans chapter 5, it says there, but God proves his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. When we were still sinners, Jesus died for us. We can only be saved by what Jesus has done, by trusting in what he has done for us. And then the last reference that I'll go is Romans chapter 10, starting at the 8th verse. It says there, this is the message of faith we proclaim, that if we confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. You'll be in a restored relationship with God. You'll be able to enter into heaven. So it says there are two things that need to happen. First, we need to believe that Jesus is the payment. God raised him from the dead. And second, we need to trust in him. We need to trust in him as Lord. Having someone as Lord of our life means we let them have dominion over our life, have rule over our life, have reign over our life to do that. So if you would like to know more about that, about trusting in Jesus Christ for our way to heaven and not our own good works. So do we do good works? Yes, we do good works. We do good works as an expression of love because of what God has done for us. He's given us his son, Jesus Christ. But the good works that get us into heaven are what Jesus has done. His death and his resurrection, the payment for our sin, and he has brought to us. So thanks once again for joining me here on Take a Break with Pastor Mark. And I would encourage you to join us every week. Sometime on a Wednesday, I'll just take a break from my regular schedule and answer your questions from the Bible or on the Christian faith. And you can either private message me through this Facebook forum, or you can leave a comment in the comment section, or you can email me at brantnazmark, all one word, @gmail.com, and I'll respond to your questions, taking a question every week. And then we also have our in-person services that are live streamed. So on Sunday mornings at 10:30, join us at 347 Fairview Drive for in-person services. Or if you want to join us online, you can join us online through Facebook Live, this forum that we have here that you're on right now. We'll stream our services live there. So look forward to having you join us, whether it be this Sunday or next Sunday. Until then, God bless you and God keep you.